Last week was quite a big week. We had the budget speech here in South Africa, and that kind of was a non-event relative to the world news with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Both of these events actually have quite an impact potentially on our investments and on our livelihood, on our economy. So just wanted to cover both of these events as briefly as possible, in a way that sort of helps us to make decisions and navigate over the next couple of years and months. So first of all, we're just going to discuss the budget briefly. Very quickly, there was obviously a very big overrun in tax revenue, unexpected 180 billion rand. And that was obviously positive, very positive. And the finance minister took a cautious approach to this. He had a couple of options. What can you do with an extra 180 billion rand? Some of it had already been spoken for, but there were a few choices. They could, spend more within government departments to try and stimulate the economy, but those departments are largely dysfunctional at the moment. So that needs to be sorted out before that happens and would actually have any positive effect. They could have significantly just reduced taxes for this next coming year. But then, because this huge increase in tax revenue was largely, not only, but largely because of mining and the increased commodity prices, if that doesn't carry on, then they would have to raise taxes again, and that would be very disruptive, be very difficult for businesses to actually plan and want to grow their businesses, grow the economy. So like in a good household, I suppose, with a lot of debt, they took this money and they paid off a lot of that debt. So the balance sheet, you could say, for the country is a lot healthier than it was. It was heading not so long ago to sort of 100% of GDP, debt to GDP, and now it's looking at about 70%, although that will probably still increase slightly. It'll then expectedly start tapering off, and that's a huge difference from where it was very recently. So definitely a step in the right direction. Will there be upgrades to our debt? Not at the moment. They're still going to see whether, a budget is only as good as how well you stick to it. So will they be able to stick to it? For example, wage increases in government is only set to be 1.8%. Will they be able to do that? Will they have to institute a basic income grant, which will be a whole lot of extra grants and extra expenditure that isn't in the budget at the moment? Will they need to continue bailing out SOEs more than what they have planned? So all of that will need to be analyzed. Also, there's growth that needs to happen, real economic growth. So there needs to be this cooperation between private and public sectors to really generate actual growth in the economy before things really start, being able to improve. Although historically, because of the nature of our economy, when there is this huge big windfall in mining, it does filter into other parts of the economy. But a lot of that obviously has been taken into account, and still the growth projection is not where it needs to be with our population growth. How does this affect taxes coming into this next tax year? Well, the tax brackets have been moved up in line with inflation. That's very positive. It hasn't happened the last couple of years. So that's almost like a 13 billion rand sort of sacrifice, you could say, but that's a benefit to the taxpayer. Company taxes will go down from 28% to 27%. That was proposed and now has been instituted very positively. And I'm sure you've heard this already. No increased tax anymore on fuel, on road accident fund. That was very positive. I'm already considering now what's going on and in the increase in oil prices that are expected. Sin taxes, as usual, those have been increased. We'll send out a note on all the different changes to the tax, but those are some of the highlights. Very interestingly, they're going to really be looking at crypto assets and looking at taxing capital gains there. So look out for that. That could be a huge change to those that invest a lot in crypto. Also, they're looking at potentially some kind of a wealth tax from the way that they're asking for information from high net worth individuals at the moment. So that's also something else to look out for. Also, how profits are actually generated within a unit trust, and whether it's just capital gains that we would need to pay now when we disinvest from those things. That's also all going to be investigated, but no change just yet. So we'll be just keeping an eye out on that. And also just for those that are immigrating and how they'll be looking at ways to avoid double taxation and getting people to, immediately move their money out of the country. Almost that's sort of what they're proposing, in a way that would make people almost in a panic way move their money out the country. So that's been stopped. That's good, and they'll be looking at different ways. But as that actually happens, we'll know more. That's very briefly on the actual budget. So overall it looks good for now, and let's see if they can stick to it. And then just coming to the war in Ukraine at the moment. So obviously, first of all, we really feel for those that are living there, but just how it affects markets in the short term. Something like this would always have huge effects. There'll be a lot of volatility in the market as headlines come up. I mean, Wednesday markets dropped. Friday there was some positive news. Markets picked up again. Today it's negative. So it'll be going up and down like this. But in the long term, got to kind of just look at how much actual Russia exposure there is in our investments and our clients' investments. And as we sent that note out last week, it's actually very, very small. So then it's more, how does this whole situation affect the broader economy? For example, we mentioned the increase in the oil price. How will that affect inflation, which is already an issue? The good thing is our portfolios have already been positioned sort of defensively against inflationary pressure. Not obviously foreseeing this, but it is fortunately in a very good position. So right now, there's no real need to make any changes. But as I think we all know, these situations could drag out much longer than we hope anyway, that people hope. That probably will be the case. And we'll have to see, what kind of effects that will have. But just, a little note to let you know that we are taking these things into consideration. If you've got any questions at all, then please let us know. Thanks very much.